What's going on there, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Craftavore Tastes, and today we're digging into a little American adjunct lager time in the form of the rebirth of one of the New York / Northeast regional classics, and that is none other than Piels. Yeah, a little bit of a backstory about Piels. If you were above the age of 35 years old and grew up in the New York or Northeast area, this was literally the beer that was sitting in either your grandfather or your father's fridge at all times. It's got a pretty robust history in the Northeast in terms of being kind of like a regionalized, American adjunct lager brewery. Also colloquially known as shit beer or cheap beer. But the fact of the matter is that, beers, of this kind of ilk and nature obviously date back, well over, 100 years. In the U.S., and obviously every single kind of region had their, specific beers. So in the New York area, and I think it extended out a little bit more into the Northeast as a whole, the beers that would fall into the category of Piels would be a Rheingold, a Ballantine, a Schaefer. And so basically the story of this beer is that the family members or the descendants of one of the vice presidents, or presidents, excuse me, of Piels Brothers, the brewery in its original incarnation, bought back the logos, the name of the beer, and their entire thought process was, hey, let's revive, obviously, Piels, and bring the brand back and start producing it again. Because obviously it had a, family lineage and it was something that they wanted to do. And I know that this undertaking has been going on several years. There was actually a thread about it on Beer Advocate. You can actually search for it in the Mid-Atlantic forum, if I'm not mistaken. And so the family went ahead and purchased a canning line and actually ended up brewing the beer and are continuing to actually have the beer brewed by Captain Lawrence Brewing Company in Elmsford, New York. So Piels, the new Piels, or the rebirth of Piels, is actually only available in New York, and I believe it's only available in 12 or 14 counties. I'm not 100% sure. It might be 14. So anyway, that's basically the backstory of Piels. I was actually picking up some stuff for the holidays over in New York, and I finally saw a 12-pack of it, and I had to pick it up, and figured I'd go ahead and review this guy. It is an absolute local legend and classic. All right, so Piels is an American adjunct lager, coming in at 4.7% ABV, so just a simple freaking crusher. You know what these kind of beers are. So let's go ahead and dive straight into the review, man. Let's take a look at the appearance, get the aroma, taste it, then of course we're gonna rate it. All right, so let's pop the top on this guy. Get that beer into the glass. Nice and fizzy. Get that guy set up. All right, so yeah, as you look, appearance, yeah, absolutely. So super straw yellow color going on. Got a couple of fingers of just this kind of like loose, kind of like bubbly kind of head. A lot of carbonation kind of going on in that beer, and I'll get it a little bit closer to the camera so you can kind of see it. The interesting thing about it is it's actually not full on clear. There is kind of a little bit of haze going on here. I'd actually heard, and the head is actually sticking around a little bit as well, which is kind of nice. So I had heard that they had spent quite some time attempting to get back to the original recipe of this beer. So I'm kind of stoked to dive into it, to kind of see, what's going on. Piels in its original incarnation was probably still around in the 90s, and I remember having it a few times. I cannot obviously go back to and remember what that beer tasted like, but you know what? Obviously, we'll do our best to kind of give this one the tasting notes and kind of see exactly where she's at. All right, so let's go ahead. Beer looks, looks as it should. Looks like an American adjunct lager. But what actually some kind of nice characteristics here that are kind of differentiating it from, all of the other kind of mass-produced beers out in the market. All right, dive our nose into it, get an aroma. Yep. So familiar nose, obviously getting a bit of that, you know, got a bit of corn kind of adjunct going on, right? A little bit of kind of corn sweetness. Obviously a bit bready, a little bit of cracker kind of coming from the malt. Yeah, there's even, dare I say it, there's even kind of maybe a little bit of spicy kind of characters that come from the hops there a little bit, which is kind of cool. But yeah, generally speaking, you know, it has a pleasant nose to it. It's white bread, cracker, mixed in with a little bit of corn, kind of adjunct sweetness. All right, so let's go ahead and give her a taste. Cheers. Sure, that's not bad. Putting it obviously what it kind of is, right? It's a 4.7% adjunct lager. Yeah, in the taste is kind of super nice. Similar kind of note qualities from the nose, right? You're getting a little bit of kind of breadiness going on there. It does come across a bit sweet, but I will say this one thing. Contrary to, I think the only other macro beer of this kind of ilk that I've done on the channel was Coors Banquet Beer. Coors is significantly more sweet. So this one's a little bit kind of sweet up front, but it does kind of have middle of the palate, some nice kind of drying qualities going out that dries out the beer a little bit and just kind of makes it a little bit more palpable. Yeah, I actually kind of dig a little bit of that kind of sweetness going on, which then kind of tails off. And you're kind of left with like a little bit of kind of like that bready kind of sweet white bread kind of taste going on in your mouth, or even kind of like sweet crackers or something like that. Going back in for another taste. Yeah, there's even, like I said, in the nose, like you kind of get a little bit of kind of spiciness going on from the hops a bit. You know, maybe like, I wouldn't necessarily say kind of anything floral going on there, but like, you know, you're getting a little kind of essence that there are some hops going on. I'm not exactly sure what it's brewed with from a hop perspective, but yeah, you can kind of get a little bit of that going on. You know, overall, obviously, mouthfeel is light. It's crushable. One thing that I will say that is nice, although it appeared to be kind of like super carbonated, obviously coming out of the can, like it's not overly fizzy that you are going to get from a lot of beers of this style, which is kind of freaking nice, right? Like that overcarbonation, I don't know, just no longer sits well in my stomach. This is completely different. Like there's a nice kind of subtlety to it. The mouthfeel is easily crushable. It's 4.7% ABV, so you can kind of just sit back and knock the living hell out of these things. And at the end of the day, this is a really, really good representation of perhaps what I would guess to be a, you know, pre-1980s or pre-late 70s American adjunct lager, when those recipes from all of those classic brands like Schaefer, Ballantine, Rheingold, Stroh's, you know, beers of that nature were brewed a bit differently, right? Before the huge, massive conglomerate takeovers, where a lot of those breweries either kind of went under or did hang around and then were purchased by the, you know, at that time, Anheuser-Busch, right? Miller, Coors of the world, which have now even condensed even further down. But yeah, like it's actually freaking pretty tasty. One more sip and then we're going to give her a rating. Yeah, it's not bad. It is what it is. And you know what? It's kind of refreshing and it's fun. It's an awesome little palate cleanser. And you know what? It could be a really cool kind of summer beer when you're out like boating or like at the beach or something like that. All right. So it delivers upon what that style is, and it delivers upon the American adjunct style quite well, in my opinion. So rating time. Man, this is tough. Straight up, I'm going to give this beer a 3.5 caps. I am, absolutely. I would be more than happy if I was looking for an American adjunct lager. I just wanted to kind of buy something to just, you know, knock back or even serve as the house, you know, at the house to people if you were having a party or whatever it may be. I would purchase this over a Budweiser or a, you know, Miller Coors product. I simply would, you know, excuse me, AB InBev or, you know, Miller Coors product. I absolutely would. I think the flavor profile is kind of spot on. I think there's a lot of things about this that are fun, and obviously it has a bit of a nostalgic edge to it for people that kind of grew up with that Piels brand. from either their, fathers, uncles, or grandfathers. All right, so 3.5 caps for the Piels Lager. That'll do it for this episode of Craftavore Tastes. Hope you join me again for another episode where I drink, I review, I rate, and then I repeat. Cheers.